Um, she was talking. What's up, Parker? Uh, she was talking about like the bigotry and all of that. And I happen to be of the opinion that bigotry and hatefulness, yeah, that's real. That really does motivate a segment of that voting population. But I don't think that's the primary driver. I just really don't. I think that it's it's selfishness, um, it's fear, right? And and this isn't to justify it. It's just a matter of I just think you need to know what you're dealing with if you want to combat it, right? So if you go out and call everybody a racist or a bigot, you lose the fight because you just went to, let's say, 10 Trump supporters and you said you're all racist, and out of the 10 of them, 9 of them they would have invited you over for dinner that night. You know what I'm saying? So like, racist doesn't land for them. They're like, what do you mean? I'm not racist, right? Um, they still will stand by while bad things happen to you because of your race, but they themselves are not motivated by racism, so to speak. Uh, I think a big, huge part of it is self-interest. And we like to say that people are voting against their self-interest, but in fact, they're not. They're voting as best as they can internalize their interests. And your interests are oftentimes reflected by the group that you either subscribe to or you are ascribed to, right? And so if you look at it from like you're the dominant group, okay, you take for granted for over 200 years that life goes a particular way, right? You just got to show up, do a good job, you'll be rewarded, and some win, some lose, and they move on from there. But now within the last 40, 50 years, it was slowly changing, but mainly it was changing in rural areas because of economic and technology situations. Because the old South likes having a few people with a lot of control. So they would keep advancement from coming to their areas. They would make sure that they didn't have a lot of big cities. They would make sure they didn't have all the accoutrements that the quote unquote North has because they didn't want to lose control. So that drives that. And as you let that roll forward, NAFTA comes in, right? I'm talking from the standpoint of these white voters that I say you just can't call them racist and to write them off. NAFTA comes into their world. What did NAFTA do to black people? Kind of hurt us because automobile manufacturing was one of our biggest ways into the middle class. It's either working for the government or in manufacturing that allow us to actually get into the middle class. So then NAFTA comes in, pulls all that stuff out. All these white people who made their entire living in 3 generations, 4 generations deep on the assembly line, been Ford, GM deep forever, lost their jobs. The factories closed. The railroads, nobody stops at the railroads anymore. The railroad will go right past them. There's nothing for them. You don't think that they're going to be upset about that? And they don't know who to be mad at, or even if they do know who to be mad at, up here in their heart, they don't know what to do with this. So here comes somebody who comes along and says, I'm going to give it all back to you. You have been mistreated, you've been ignored. And it's true, they've been mistreated and they've been ignored. And this dude says that he's going to pay attention. It's the same thing GOP's been saying to him for forever, but now you got somebody who has power who is fighting everybody. That's the motivation for a lot of these people. It's a matter of I've been done wrong and I don't have anybody out here I can look at that's going to fight for me. And while he may not fight for me very well, he'll fight against everybody who has fought against me. And they do that and they go through their grievance. And then you got the other part that's just fear, right? Fear of change, fear of the future. To be a conservative is to want to hold on to something. You want to conserve it. So when somebody comes to you, you look at the past, I can look at the past and I can make it seem pretty in my mind. I look at the present's always scary because things are changing. I look at the future, it's terrifying because I have no idea what's over that hill. And what do I have to look at right now? Immigration, echo chambers that tell me to be scared of immigration, echo chambers that tell me to be scared of cities. Everything's telling you to be afraid. So these people are voting. Here's how I put it. These people are voting to no longer be afraid.
Yeah.
It manifests as hate, selfishness, and everything else for us. But these people, they just don't want to be scared anymore. And that's how they vote. Now, if you ask me how to change it, I'm at the phase where I'm like, you can't.
Mm.
And we too close. At this point, you need to get your butt out there and vote. You need to get off your high horse with your principles and lofty ideas and realize what stage of the game we're in and take your booty on out there and vote when it's time to vote and take somebody with you and encourage everybody to go vote the way you want to vote against the Republicans and against the conservatives, and then join me December 2024 as we all switch to the independent status for our voting registrations, so we can send a very clear message to the Democratic and the Republican Party that we don't want to play with you anymore.
Hmm. You got anything, Anna?
I think it's really hard to put down besides fear, because fear has been used, weaponized across the board, left and right. Besides fear, it is hard to say that somebody's going to vote either right or left because of A, B, or C. I think people speak about their experience a lot. And I know that Ida, being a stand-up comedian, gets a lot of heckling. There are MAGA people who will go to her shows just to cause trouble. How representative is that? I don't know. I try not to look that hard into I guess the fringe right, as we would say. The more Christian nationalists and the MAGA crowd, and I mean the been there from the beginning kind of crowd. So, I think she speaks from her experience, but it is hard to just toss that out because it happens to her a lot. So, I mean, I do understand what she was saying, but once again, yeah, I don't think it's easy to say they're gonna vote because of this. There's often a lot of nuance